Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Today, we have another step forward on the 2024 goal of no floor whiskey. And in order to have no floor whiskey, that means I have to thin the herd month after month. So we're going to go over 6 bottles that were killed in the last month here, go over final thoughts, the price paid, whether I'd be willing to buy them again. So we're going to go through these in order of price. And by the time we get to the end of this, we're going to be talking about reflection on some heavy hitters. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Well, kicking things off first, this is a very interesting bottle. I'm not sure what to do with it. I'm very interested in getting another, but at the same time, it's been divisive amongst everyone that I've given it to. Maybe it's just for those that are into craft whiskey because it is so unique. I love the chocolate and coffee notes that I get off this thing, but when I give it to Darrell in blinds, he's not a big fan. But that is just not his profile at all. But this is the Detling bourbon. This is coming out of Alabama. This one is a 5-grain bourbon, cask strength, coming in at 5 years. Gosh, almost 120 proof. But yes, I love this thing with all of those deep, dark notes. I mean, once again, coffee, espresso beans, chocolate. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Interested in seeing what Detley does from here, especially as their distillate gets above that 5-year mark. Love to see some older whiskey to try this one out again. This one was $65 when I got this one in Northern Kentucky. Next on the list, this one is a rye. We're actually going to have a series of rye on this video here. But a lot of the times, people associate Backbone with the bourbon. But Backbone also has ryes, and they call them Bone Snapper rye whiskeys. They got some killer MGP single barrels. And this one here came in at 6 years. This one, though, gosh, the bottle date here, I know it's going to be a little washed out. Distilled in 2013, bottled 2019. This has been on my shelf for quite a while. Finally got the job done. I've actually got a few other backbones that I can get through here when it comes to the Bone Snapper rye. But if you see these in your area, do not sleep on them. A lot of the times they have a deeper, darker profile, and they're very good for the price. This one I paid $70 to $80 for, and I'd do it again. Love things that are coming out of Backbone. Next on the list, been slowly killing bottles of this every single month. Once again, we have the Hard Truth. Now, this one is probably, I think, the biggest crowd pleaser of what was their initial lineup of mash bills, the caramel malt. This runs $95 for the caramel malt. The other rye releases or single barrels are going to be closer to $70, but this one, being the more unique mash bill, does run the price up a little bit. Now, this was batch 1. I will say it got increasingly better with batch 2, and I was a big fan of batch 1. Hopefully, I get to see a batch 3. Otherwise, I hope Hard Truth is laying more of this down because they were on to something special with this mash bill. Next on the list, this one runs about $90 to $100 as well. We are in the rye category, but this one is a rare character, and this rye was finished in Amburana. Now, I know Amburana is real divisive these days. Some people are just over it. Some people were never into it. I am still giving it a chance. I love that churro flavor, But I will say that I think it finishes particularly better in a rye than it does in a bourbon. With a bourbon, it tends to completely take over. It tends to mask everything. It tends to dominate. With a rye, I feel like the rye has a chance to stand through. And this was the bottle that taught me that lesson. This was a rare character pick coming out of Bourbon Outfitter. So keep an eye out. I know people are maybe burnt out on Amburana, but if you haven't had an Amburana finished rye yet, I would recommend it, especially if you can get up there like a 6-7 year rye. Delicious stuff, but she gone. That was a big bug. All right, next on the list, we have the Bardstown Bourbon Company. This one is the Discovery Series, number 9, runs $145. I personally don't know if I would buy this particular batch again. Very interesting whiskey, very good. Just a matter of, was it $145 compared to some other things on the market? The the blend on this one was 35% Georgia 8-year, 31% Kentucky 12-year, 19% Tennessee 17-year, and 15% Ontario 100% corn whiskey at 12 years old. Very, very unique blend, kind of a Frankenstein when you read that out loud. And I was always hit or miss when they included the Dickel in the blends. For me, I tend to not be able to escape some of those notes that I get from Dickel, regardless of if it was a blend or not. Wasn't too keen on this one. Didn't buy the 10 because it kind of had some of the very similar components, but they did rear me back in with the Bardstown Series 11. Interested to see where they go from there. So hit or miss on these. Really, I kind of wait now. These aren't a blend or a series that I will buy without a preview or without someone else giving me a recommendation when it comes to the Bardstown Discovery Series. Last on the list, sad to see this one go because never going to have anything like it on my bar again. This is the end of a particular era for me. But we've got the Kentucky Owl 10-year rye. This one was batch 3. So this one was blended by Dixon Dedman. And since then, of course, he's split off. He doesn't work for them anymore. He is now doing his thing with 2XO. So in general, I don't have any more Kentucky Owl on the bar now that this one is done. This one ran $250, $300. I mean, it was pretty darn expensive. Whether it was worth that price, I mean, it was one heck of a rye, but sometimes, I don't know, FOMO and hype can get the best of you when you pay that much. In general, though, yeah, don't plan to buy any more Kentucky Owl products. For me, that was a Dixon Dedman kind of thing, and now that he has moved on, just kind of done with the brand and the prices for the things that they are putting out there. And I really haven't heard anyone else talk about the brand much ever since as well. So putting this one to bed, end of a chapter, but a good run for Kentucky Owl. And I don't know, interesting story on how to build up a brand, sell it, and move on. Very interesting template for other creators in the whiskey industry. So goodbye to that Kentucky Owl. Of course, I will never buy that one again. So curious to know on this list what you've tried, what you like, and what you have killed recently as well. Also, always interested to know what you do with the bottles after you kill them. For me, these will either turn into candles, olive oil bottles, or go into the recycling bin. We'll see where they go from there. Well, thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.